I am Babylon Jonathan, and this is the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Équinoxe Television, live from our headquarters in Cameroon's economic capital, Douala. In our top stories in this edition of the news, 2 persons are consumed by wild flames in the southwest regional chief town, Boya. The victims, a 93-year-old woman and her 9-year-old grandson, were killed in that incident, or simply they died in that fire incident. In the meantime, separatists are still being hunted and killed in the 2 English-speaking regions of the Republic of Cameroon, despite widespread condemnation against the military crackdown being undertaken by elements of the National Armed Forces in an effort to restore peace and normalcy in the 2 English-speaking regions in crisis for close to 4 years, or more than 4 years. Today, in the last operation, 2 separatist fighters were brought down by the military in the southwest region of the country. And in the far north region, insecurity is on the rise in the locality of Mokulu. Inhabitants are attributing the rising insecurity to what they consider as complicity between suspected criminals and military officials. And of course, we'll talk about coronavirus in this edition of the news. In less than 48 hours, about 17 persons are tested positive for the coronavirus in the east region of the country within the context of the second wave of the pandemic. A 93-year-old mother and her 9-year-old grandson dead in a fire incident in the southwest regional capital, Boya. Their home was reduced to ashes by wild flames, and they died in that incident, as our southwest correspondent Derek Jato reports.
Desperate cry for help as flame ravaged a building at checkpoint in Boya subdivision. The incident is just few meters from the main road, yet no response is coming. The southwest regional capital has no fire rescue unit. And at dawn, the Boya population came face to face with the bitter reality the fire had left behind. A 93-year-old woman, Mami Rebecca Fee, and her 9-year-old grandson, Dave Maxwell, were burnt in the house. The cause of the fire is yet to be established, but a witness explanation might give a clue as to what ignited the flames.
We are around 2 a.m. So I hear some small noise as I crack.
I got a noise at about 2 a.m. Monday, he says, and when I opened my door, I saw heavy flames around my neighbor's door and the downer part of her building. To him, the electrical fault might just be secondary, not the primary cause of this sad incident, which has not only reduced properties into ashes, but also lives.
If it shows maybe other parameters, maybe it will be concerned for the fire, because even the electricity only, it will get some slow start and movement. But the weight of the flare means some external force. It will be a primary factor. Maybe linked to the
2 separatist fighters brought down by elements of the National Armed Forces in the southwest region of the country. They were killed after the incident which paralyzed circulation on the Boya Kumba highway in that part of the country, and the 2 have been killed, and according to officials, this is a sign that the military is doing its job. Details with Innocent.
2 separatist fighters, Ambe Augustine alias General Above the Law and Washe Celestine alias T-Boy, finally bowed to the bullets of the military in Kumba, Meme Division of the Southwest region at 6 a.m. Monday, February 8th, 2021.
This is to show the world that the militaries are not sleeping.
They were neutralized at Balangi along the Kumba-Boya Highway by elements of the 6th Military B Regiment of the Southwest, commanded by Colonel Medouang Desiree.
General above the law is the one who carry out many operations against the population.
And we want to make this sound this as a warning to the others that they have seen what the military has done, apprehended. The other brothers who are in bush has to come out and surrender their gun so that we send them to DDR.
Few days ago, the now late General above the law and his team attacked the Defense and Security Forces at Balangi, injuring 2, blocked the roads and published a video Thursday, February 4 on social media declaring that he is still alive, contrary to rumors he was killed in the fire exchange. According to the 3rd Assistant Senior Divisional Officer for the Meme Division, General above the law's crimes are immeasurable.
You see, General, the so-called General above the law was one of the crew members of the 24th October attack in Moda Francisca. So this one now shows that in collaboration with the population and the forces of law and order, we are able now to apprehend them. So we are sending this as a warning to the population and to everybody that you must collaborate with the military so that we end this.
A must collaboration of the population, he emphasized. Otherwise, they will keep lamenting from attacks of other separatist fighters.
Now to the far north region of the Republic of Cameroon, where insecurity is equally a major problem, with incursions of Boko Haram militants from Nigeria, but also suspected criminals committing atrocities within the communities in Mokulu. Inhabitants are attributing the rising crime wave in their locality to what they qualify as complicity between suspected criminals and security and defense forces. Details in this report by Fomiam Sonsana.
Inhabitants of Mokulu in the Mayo-Chanaga division of the far north region of Cameroon have been living a disturbing level of insecurity for close to 7 years. Beyond attacks from members of the Boko Haram terrorist group, armed bandits and highway robbers transformed Mokulu into a lawless territory.
There are armed robbers who break in and out at will. The people are also not helping in identifying strangers and criminals.
Attacks which the people say have led to loss of lives and properties in Mokulu.
A lot of pains and loss in human lives. They break in on motorbikes in numbers, rob, go and come again.
The attacks, robberies and other criminal activities, according to the population of Mokulu, are sometimes committed by top security commanders with impunity. They recall the case of a certain Hamajan, commander of the Mokulu Gendarmerie Company, whom they say was involved in robbery attacks in 2016. The people also decry what they qualify as complicity between the criminals and some administrative and top security officials of the Mayo-Chanaga divisional chieftain.
Dans un chef de département, nous sommes plus dans l'insécurité que ceux qui sont, n'est-ce pas, à 100 km de la ville. C'est là notre inquiétude.
The role of the state is to protect the citizens, but here we live more in insecurity. How do you explain that in Mokulu, those who report criminals are in turn arrested and criminals set free?
Et ce dont le paradoxe à Mokulu, c'est quoi? Quand ceux qui se plaignent, c'est des fois ceux-là qu'on garde et on laisse les mises en cause.
They further accuse some top security officials of releasing criminals through illegal negotiations whenever they are arrested by the local population. Challenges which they hope will end with the installation of Hamida Bukar as the new state council for the Mayo-Chanaga.
On doit se confier à l'État parce que nous sommes dans un pays de droit.
We only have a state to confide in because it is their duty to protect us. Why should they allow the strong and lawless people to lord over the weaker ones?
Commissioning the State Council, the President of the Final Court of Appeal instructed him to listen to the cries of the people and impartially apply the Criminal Procedure Code.
Cameroon's Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development congratulates farmers in the southwest region of the country for braving insecurity to continue striving to supply food to the population. He was speaking during his visit to Boya. Derek Jato reports.
The Cameroon Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development on an inspection visit to the head office of the Agricultural Infrastructure and Value Chain Development Project, AIVDP, under construction in Boya. Minister Gabriel Mbaye saluted the management of the Southwest Development Authority, Soweda, for the speedy pace of works here.
I'm very satisfied of the quality of the work and the professionalism of all the staff of the contractors who realized this beautiful building.
Geared toward encouraging large-scale production and adding value to these farm produce.
We know this project provides social basic infrastructure for population and empower population to increase the productivity and the yield of some crops like cocoa, cassava, plantain, maize, and some other crops.
In a war-hit region, the Cameroon Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development congratulated farmers in the southwest for braving the war trade to feed the population.
I am very proud because despite of the social political crisis in the southwest, despite of the COVID pandemic, agriculture population, they are standing up and they are fighting for the security.
At the end of these preliminary and concluding activities surrounding the second steering committee meeting of AIVDP, Besontui Ogok, Soweto Director General, revealed that everything is moving as planned.
The minister has given his okay for the work to go ahead, so we are very satisfied.
The ceremony also witnessed the handing over of 18 off-road motorbikes to frontline staff of the Southwest Regional Delegation of Agriculture and Rural Development involved in the project implementation.
A commercial center construction project renders many inhabitants of Betwa in the east region of Cameroon homeless. They have been forcefully evicted from the area where the commercial center will be constructed, and municipal authorities say the construction of that center is going to enhance the development of that part of Betwa. Details in this report compiled by Mokulu.
Traders at the Betwa Motor Park in the east region of Cameroon being forcefully evicted from the site. Demolition process carried out by the Betwa City Council has left traders in shock. I have been in this market for over 24 years selling vegetables and pears. The revenue gotten from the sale of these items was able to help me sponsor my children in school. They are asking us to leave the site without allocating another site where we can resettle. Some of the traders say they were aware of the demolition exercise 2 months ago, but they were hoping that the decision could be changed. It is really painful seeing our business site being demolished. We had been informed about the demolition exercise 2 months ago, but we were hoping that they could change their mind.
Bien de voir notre ville
According to the city mayor of Betwa, Jean-Marie Dembele, the demolition process is meant to give way for the construction of a business center financed by the French Development Agency. He adds that the construction of such an edifice will promote the development of the area and eventually counter urban disorder.
17 persons tested positive for coronavirus within 48 hours in the East region of the Republic of Cameroon within the context of the second wave of the coronavirus pandemic, and regional health officials are now stepping up sensitization to prevent the spreading of that virus. Charles Sekome reports.
The East region has not been spared by the second wave of COVID-19, as a number of cases have surfaced and is already getting administrative authorities and the entire population worried.
Dans la région de l'Est, nous avons un cumulé de 1248 cas.
In the East region, we have a record of 1,248 active cases since the beginning of the pandemic. The government and Ministry of Public Health provided resources in the fight against this pandemic, and so far we have been able to treat 1,185 cases, which brings us to a 95.5% healing rate. To date, we have 35 active cases, but in the past 48 hours, we have recorded more than 17 new cases.
48 heures passées, nous avons enregistré en 48 heures 17 cas.
The regional delegation of public health is worried with the rapid number of cases resurfacing and called upon media professionals to embark on a sensitization campaign so as to help prevent the rates of contamination in the region.
Nous avons pensé que les acteurs de la communication.
We think and believe that media and communication professionals remain key stakeholders in the transmission of concrete information, especially on preventive measures vis-à-vis the pandemic.
Pour pouvoir amener les uns et les autres à revenir au strict respect des mesures barrières.
The press received sanitizers, face masks and soap as a motivation for their work during this pandemic in the presence of the delegate of communication. For him, this benevolent gesture encourages media professionals to effectively carry on their work for public sensitization. The press must devote their time to civism and patriotism in order to help health personnel with this war against COVID-19. Both delegates challenged media professionals and the population of the East region to respect preventive measures, for COVID-19 remains a major threat to the society.
Coming up, Sman Jikan Gebre with a balance sheet of the 2020 African Nations Championship won by Morocco, which became the first nation to win 2 successive editions. Details with our sportsman, Sman Jikan Gebre.
It was total joy within the Moroccan delegation that came to Cameroon for CHAN 2020 at the end of the final whistle of the referee on Sunday. Morocco, that defeated Mali 2-0 in a hotly contested finals, became the first country to clinch the trophy 2 times in a row. Mali failed again at the finals for a second time after 2016, when they were thrashed by DR Congo 3-0. A total of 32 matches were played during the entire competition. 62 goals were scored, giving us an average of 1.94 goals scored per match. CHAN Cameroon 2020 will be remembered for it recorded more goals than Morocco 2018, where in 32 matches, 58 goals were scored. The Moroccan team alone scored 15 of these goals and conceded 3. The referees also gave out as many as 120 yellow cards, 91 of them at the group stage stage of the competition, 19 at the quarterfinals, 10 at the semis, 4 during the third place encounter, and 5 yellow cards at the finals. Just 4 red cards were given by the referees during the entire competition. Zambia, Guinea, Rwanda, and Mali were the unfortunate nations to pick up these red cards. As the 6th edition of CHAN 2020 is now history, sport authorities in Cameroon are called upon to quickly get into work to better the fourth place that the country occupied at the end of the tournament. The 7th edition of the African Nations Championship CHAN will be hosted in Algeria in 2023.
Magic and Gabriel, and in the first part of this newscast coming up next, Talking Point. Thank you for staying with us in Talking Points. We're receiving Dewume Emmanuel. He's a teacher and civil society activist. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much, Babila. It's been a while, so first of all, start by congratulating you people for the beautiful work you have been doing for Cameroonians and the world at large. Happy New Year.
Thank you, same to you. We begin in the southwest regional chief town, Boya. A 93-year-old woman consumed by flames with her 9-year-old child. And one thing that comes up again and again, and which Derek Jato, correspondent in Boya, mentioned in his report, is the absence of the rescue unit in Boya.
Yes, Mr. Babila Jonathan, it's pathetic. It's lamentable. But since we are in Cameroon and we are used to such atrocities, we can only doff our hearts and share our heartfelt condolences to such families. You see, in a country that wants to be moved by people who cannot move, that country cannot move, Mr. Babila. It's time we should be moved by those who can move. Because if you cannot move, you cannot move the country. How do you explain the fact that in a regional headquarters like Boya, we don't have a firefighter brigade to rescue the people at the needed point? It is not only in this domain. Cameroonians are lacking in many other domains, which is simply explained by the fact that in Cameroon, those who know nothing are put to do almost everything. And so everything turns out to be a sham. And that is why
what it becomes very difficult for citizens to understand is the fact that in a town like Boya, a regional head office, a regional headquarters that you indicated, there is no rescue unit, and it is the same situation in some other parts of the country. For example, in Chang, there's no rescue unit. When the accident occurred at La Falaise, rescue soldiers had to leave from Bafoussam. Before arriving there, the flames had consumed everything, and they arrived there, they were under-equipped. They had to be depending on help from some individuals who were
from
there,
the local population,
using some buckets to fetch some water and all of that. How?
You see,
what's the problem? Is it management or what?
It comes back to what I said from my opening word, that this country needs to be moved by people who can move. If you cannot move Babila, you cannot move the country. You see, we have all sit-tight squirrel leaders in Yaoundé, whom for quite a long time have never had a moment to think of how Cameroonians are faring. That is why they think that life begins and ends in Yaoundé.
But you are saying that you're saying that the authorities are not moving. That's why the nation is not moving.
Yes.
Maybe you can explain that, what you mean by moving, because we have been seeing the Minister of Territorial Administration almost everywhere. Wherever there is trouble, even when there's no trouble, he's there to talk with the people, to talk with the authorities on the ground, getting information from them, and
talk with the voices and the girls in the bushes,
and other authorities who have also been visiting different parts of the country. And
no, if the Minister of Territorial Administration forms part of the leaders in this country who cannot move, and then they are trying to move the country. People don't usually move only on their legs, they move with their brains. When we have ministers that do not foresee, that they rule the people by imagination, by speculation, we get the results that we're getting from Boya. Do you think somebody like the Minister of Territorial Administration, whom I personally do not like to talk about him because he has very little or no impact on a positive note for Cameroonians, he is part of the problems that Cameroonians are really having in their hands, because each time he opens his mouth, he doesn't weigh what comes out of it.
How can somebody be trying to solve problems and he is the problem?
No, he's the main problem, because in trying to solve one problem, that minister creates at least 10 problems, only with his own words. He has what we call mouth diarrhea. You know, each time he opens his mouth, he provokes the population the more. Where we are in Cameroon at this particular moment, we need people who speak wisdom. We need people who speak appeasement. We don't need people who comes out to tell us that we have a cane to whip our buttocks so that we sit up. At this particular point in time, we need wisdom, not even knowledge again. And the paradox in this whole comedy republic called Cameroon is that those who are placed to do everything are almost practically those who know nothing. And so when they come out, they think that we are still in the 90s, when the Cameroonians could easily be fooled and blindfolded around. No, Mr. Babila, we have gone ages. We see, we hear. We are not visually impaired. We see, we have visibility. We know that it is not working with our country. And until the right people are put on the right places, until those who can move are put into positions to move Cameroon, we are in a stagnant position. That is why you see what is happening in Boya. That is why you see we are losing compatriots every day, simply because firefighter brigades are never on time. And it is not the fault of these people, the actors of the firefighting brigades. It's simply because those who are in command are giving a wrong command, and they are never timely, Mr. Babila. I should tell you that.
Let's talk about the military crackdown on separatist fighters or pro-independence fighters in two English-speaking regions of the country. In the last operation, two leaders of the fighters were brought down in the southwest region, and that came after the Boya-Kumba road was blocked by confrontations, gun battles between the separatists and the military, and you were heading to Kumba from Boya last Thursday, and you had to go back to Boya because of the gun battle. Can you just tell us what you saw, what you heard around the
Balangi? Balangi, Ediki, because from Ediki to Balangi is not too far. You know, I had a program to send a document out of the country from the NZ Kumba. Fortunately for us, the car that we took, we had a father there that was permanently on communication with the kids back at home. Like he had a sentiment. So at one point he asked the driver to stop at around Idiki. The driver wanted to insist. He asked the driver to drop him. That ahead.
There's trouble.
There's trouble. He made calls. He put his phone on the loudspeaker. We heard the children crying that there was terrible shootout between the military and the pro-independence fighters. So at that time, the driver had to turn because we met a few military men who were so kind to us, let's be honest, who told us that from the information they're getting from their colleagues in Kumba, we should not continue. But if we are continuing, it is at our own risk because they don't know what will be the turnout of the shootout. So we had to turn back, and I had to pass the night in Boya before the next day I continue with my journey. But coming back to your original question about the crackdown and the killing of the separatists, they are not the first generals that have been killed, and they will not be the last. On this same platform on Equinoxe Talking Point with Babila Jonathan, I told you that killing, guns don't speak, guns only kill. What we need at this particular point, we need a genuine voice of a reason. And until those who are thinking that they are the leaders or they are ruling this country come to terms with the fact that voice of reason, genuine voice of reason, is what can stop this crisis, each day we will be killing a general and another general will be shooting like a new shoot of a plant. And I want to tell you, Babila, that we are in a mess. If you visit the town of Boya and Kumba, you will discover that ammo cars are more than the yellow taxis that transport people in the morning, afternoon, and in the evening. That is the investment that my country, the government of my country, has chosen to invest on ammo cars. Whereas words and voice of reasons are less costly than these ammo cars that are being bought every day. And these ammo cars are not bought to protect the gullible population. They are bought to protect those who are at the helm of affairs in this country. What a pity. My country is wallowing in blood.
Ammo cars are more than
the yellow taxis on the streets.
The cabs on the streets of Oya. Sure. Is that not gross exaggeration?
No,
not amplifying the military presence in those areas?
Well, there's no gainsaying, and it will not be hyperbolic. You are a journalist and a respected one at that. Now you know that moving an inch in Boya Kumba, you meet with the military. Do you think that the military that are flying, they don't have wings, Mr. Babila? They are moving in cars.
The authorities say that they are there to protect the population.
Yes.
And the territorial integrity of this country.
That is what, look, Mr. Babila, one message I am sending to this regime of Yaoundé today is that it is better to lose power saving lives than to lose lives to stay in power. You gain glory when you lose your power to save lives, so that those lives you have saved live to see you and testify that he dropped, he surrendered his post because he did not want any further bloodshed than to stay in power for 100 years and see 1 million people being killed. It is not glorious. It is not honorable, Babila.
The third deputy senior divisional officer of the Meme division said that the killing of the separatist leaders or the fighters is a sign that the military is not sleeping. It is doing its work, and its work of restoring peace and normalcy in those two regions. What do you think about this?
No. I think he's right in what he's saying. It's the language of the regime. You have heard time without number that normalcy has returned to northwest and southwest. But I bet you, these same people say normalcy has returned to Northwest. Let me take, for example, the Minister of Territorial Administration. Bamenda does not end in upstation, Mr. Babela. Tell him to go to Bamenda. Go to Mile 2 after a moment to his compound. I know his compound personally. Walk free as I do. Drive his personal car as I can do. And then come back and tell us that there is normalcy. Then all of us shall go back to Kwakwa. All of us shall go back to Idiki. All of us shall go back to Fundong, walking free without fear of bullets. These people has a way of ruling Cameroon. And you know, I call it permit me to say the CPDM Bible. The first chapter of this CPDM Bible to the last chapter begins with lies tellings and ends with lies tellings. That has also been codified as part of the characteristics of patriotism in Cameroon. If you want to be a patriot in Cameroon, you must learn to lie and lie very well. You must learn to sing a particular name and sing it so well. You must learn to be able to glorify another God and glorify it so well. And that is why we remain where we are today and we are not moving an inch. Things are not getting better, Mr. Babela.
Are you seeing that? Are you seeing that when the Minister of Territorial Administration, for example, says President Paul Biya has won the war against terrorism? It's a lie?
No, President Biya cannot give President. I'm praying. I'm one of the Cameroonians who is praying that Paul Biya should stay longer and see what he left for Cameroon as legacy. Give President Biya another 100 years of life, he will never win the war. No country wins a war against its population. I remember in 2014, just briefly, I contributed against Boko Haram in the far north. And I cried when I used to follow morning safari, and I heard that a young man fell with a gun and cried to their colleague that pick up my gun so that my gun shouldn't fall into the arms of the enemy. I contributed because we were fighting an external enemy. But I want to tell you something. I have brothers who are military men. I will not hide it, because for those who know me, they know. When you talk with them, it is not their wish or their will to remain on the field and to be shooting, because they receive command from somewhere. They are already tired. They are waiting for the person who declared this war to stop the war, so that they can also have rest, because they are not resting. They are not resting, Babylon. All of us, we are into this mess together.
Right. So, in your opinion, killing the separatist fighters,
that's not
not solving the problem.
It's not solving the problem. The lone solution to this problem, voice of reason. Talk to those who matter. These people will come back to their senses, because some of them did not pick up the guns because formally they wanted to. I don't want to go to the genesis of the problem, because Akum Julius, who was the first civilian to go down, was never an amber boy. He never had guns. He had only pen and his books. I was coming back from school. He was in the agric engineering department of University of Bamenda. But when we want to stop a war, we don't keep counting corpses. I have repeatedly said it is never too late to stop the war. Beg for forgiveness from the people. Because first of all, what is leadership? Leadership means services. When it is only in Cameroon that a leader sees himself as a demigod, and then the people should instead glorify him. On the contrary, whereas he was supposed to glorify the people, he claimed the people put him there. It's pathetic.
Ndiwum Emmanuel, teacher and civil society activist, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Mr. Babela. It's my pleasure.
Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for staying with us. Serge Along is already on his seat, and Équinoxe will be coming up next.